for people who have been following the story, and we have been for months, what will the city council do? Will they give themselves health benefits or not? You know, the argument against was they're part-time employees, and the same benefit is not extended to 1/3 of City Hall workers, firefighters and police accepted. So came down to a vote just this week, and here's my report about what happened earlier this week.
The decisive vote was 11-0 with one abstention. Looking at the vote board, you'd never guess all the delays and back and forth that led up to the vote. But in the end, these politicians showed they could read the tea leaves after all, giving themselves the kind of health coverage that's not even available to 1/3 of all full-time city employees was not a good idea.
That is ludicrous. And I say to you, you should be ashamed to bring that to the citizens of the city of Memphis and expect us to lay on our back.
Please reconsider. It's just so unfair. You're public servants, not public takers. You're supposed to work for us, not against us.
And while this idea can always resurface later, by the way these council members were talking, it doesn't seem very likely.
Even though it's not going to be a huge ticket item, you know, it's a bad message to our employees that, you know, we think we should get more than you do.
Right now we have former city employees who are not offered that benefit, and right now I'm just not comfortable extending it to council members. We got work to do.
Yeah, I think she put it quite well, as did Jeff Warren, who also said to me, you know what, when we get the potholes fixed and we have a surplus budget and the crime wave is down, then maybe we can talk about something like this. But they were of the feeling we can't, you know, get rid of this issue fast enough. Although there was an effort to table it until August, eventually they voted 11-0 no. Your thoughts, Otis?
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. I expected this to happen, and I even expected a unanimous vote on it, but that was because there was so much pressure citywide about this. And Janika White is absolutely correct. They're not ready to do that. They got other work to do. And the good thing is there were enough new members on the council that were not involved.
No, they inherited that.
They
this
inherited
whole controversy.
This. So I feel for them because they were getting the brunt of all the criticism. But the fact that you had all those new members there that said, I'm not going to be a part of this, because some of them want to be there 2 terms, and if they had voted for this, I doubt that they would be. So I'm not surprised at all by any of this.
It's amazing to me, Sam, how tone deaf sometimes our local politicians can be. You did the story about the surprise birthday party that taxpayers paid for. You did the story about the junket to Puerto Rico the police department took, where how many people? More than a dozen, right?
15, and it was multiple city departments.
15 people to recruit officers. It was totally unsuccessful. And then you had this issue too. It just keeps coming up.
Yeah, like Otis said, and like you put in your report, reading the tea leaves, that was such bad politics. If you vote for that, like, it was sort of obvious that this was going to happen. All it really did was it got a lot of attention, obviously, but it just is sort of this strike against government at this time where, honestly, you want Memphians to engage with government. You want them to have trust in government, and instead, like, the most popular subject relating to government for the first half of this year is probably going to be city council health benefits. That's not a great look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one man in particular who really took a lot of heat for proposing the idea in the first place, and that's the former council chairman, Martavius Jones. And he was at the committee meeting just before the full council decided to vote against it. He kind of echoed a lot of what he said in his op-ed for the Daily Memphian. He went off on the media and how they've got it all wrong. And there was a fact error, we should point out, in the initial reporting, saying that it was going to be a lifetime benefit when that was never the case. It was going to end for any of these retired council members at the age of 65. But overall, to Sam's point about the overall perception that people have, and is if there's not enough cynicism, and you've got a mayor who's trying to get people to get behind the city and rally citizens to say the times are changing, you know, government's going to work for you, and then this issue dominates the headlines for weeks.
The city council made the right decision. I mean, I don't think they could have made another decision because of all the pressure that they were receiving, but I'm glad they had an opportunity to have the dialogue and people let them know what they thought about the healthcare proposal, and politically it would have been a big mistake. So I'm glad they made the decision that they did.
Anything you add, Otis?
Well, Martavius Jones, let's get back to him. And again, I've known him for many years. He's a nice guy. He served 8 years. But he was just dead wrong on this whole thing from the start. And yes, there was a fact error, and the media need to acknowledge that, and I think we have. But that does not negate the fact that this was wrong-headed from the start, and he is being a little bull-headed now by continuing to double down on it. He should never do that.
But Otis, he wasn't by himself because
no,
it
he was
advanced,
not.
right? It advanced not once but twice.
Well, that's true, but they knew that it was going to be a third reading.
That was some
Right.
gentleman's agreement to like,
Okay.
we're not going to kill this right now. Like
Right.
that, like a lot of stuff gets to third reading at
third
City
reading.
Hall
Okay.
before like we.
They laid the hammer
They laid
down.
the hammer down, okay.
Exactly, exactly, yeah.
And now we have this issue that's a referendum that voters will be deciding on that Martavius Jones led as well, that where council members will be able to vote for their own salaries, their own raises. And
set
I
salaries
see-
for city appointees as well.
Yeah, I think that could get very interesting
Well,
too.
but I do think that they should be able to set their own salaries as part-time employees. I mean, they're responsible for approving the budget, so they should. Now,
Well, you know what's going to happen. There's salaries of $28,000, $30,000 a year are going to jump substantially.
well,
I'll bet you they double.
I bet you they don't.
Okay.
Because the public
Bet.
is paying attention. Bet, Vicky, bet. Vicky, bet. I promise you it won't double because the public's paying attention. You have some new members who want to come back. They're not going to double it. I just don't believe it. But I think it's going to be a robust discussion.
Is it going to pass though? Like we just made that bet. It's not going to pass. Like
You don't think it's going to pass?
I don't think voters want.
The
I don't think the voters
Oh,
want this to happen. No way. Did the
No, the voters are not going to support it.
No,
They're not.
They're going to laugh it out the door.
No.
They're not, they're not.
They're going to be like, "Thanks for coming."
It would have been smart to just keep it the way it is with whatever the county commission
Whatever the county
does.
commission did, that's right.
Then-
We'll just follow right behind.
Exactly. You know, let the county commission get the pressure.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, well, next we're going to talk about another fairly controversial story of the week, and that is Memphis tourism. Turns out they're breaking in millions and millions of dollars and sitting on a lot of those millions. We'll talk about it right after this.